Welcome to A Magic Chat. I'm Sam from Wolf and Wing, and I'm joined today by the lovely Brook Packard. Hi, Brook.
Hi, Sam.
Hi. Whereabouts in the world are you right now?
I am in the US. I am outside of New York City in a town called Rye, and we're about 4 miles from ground zero with the coronavirus here.
Ooh. So it sounds like you definitely need a cup of tea.
Yeah, I definitely need a cup of tea.
Awesome. So this is my magic cherry blossom tea.
Oh,
And
dreamy.
it travels through cyberspace to arrive at your end as the perfect, your favorite sort of cup of tea or beverage in your favorite mug. So here you go.
Oh, great. Oh, thank you. I need this.
Oh, the mushrooms are escaping behind me. So, Brooke, can I ask you to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. My name's Brooke. I have spent years as a singer and a voice teacher, but particularly an early childhood music specialist and education specialist. I love working with kids. I find it as stimulating intellectually and on a soul level as I do with, grown-ups and college things. And I always learn from children. And I'm married to a retired bishop in the Episcopal Church, so I spent 10 years of his years as a bishop traveling around the world and meeting with chaplains in the military and hearing a lot of stories. So, and I'm the mother of a young adult named Hudson.
Awesome.
I think that's it.
Yay. Awesome. Wow. So at the moment your focus is on sleep, is that right?
Yes, it is. I should have gone straight to that. I took my skills as a liturgist because I played in bands, created sort of a holy journey for people in the church, and I was a singer and choirs and all that kind of stuff. A liturgist and my early childhood work to create Sleepytime Club, which gives parents a bedtime routine that's connecting, nurturing. They can release the day, and it's 20 minutes or less, so they can reclaim their evenings, which we really need right now.
I'm nodding away here. It's like, yes.
Yeah. And I hit on this idea, and I have a bedtime journal with your beautiful illustration on the cover. Oh my gosh. But I hit on this idea because I had huge insomnia problems. And ironically, it was right when my child became, outgrew her bedtime routine, which was pretty old. It was like 12 or 13. We were still reading chapter books together and having that special time. And I went from doctor to doctor to doctor, and I was like really begging for a pill, like, give me a pill. Right? And there are big problems with pills, but every doctor gave me the same advice. It was like, go to bed at the same time, get up at the same time, get a nice bedtime ritual, do all these things at the same time every day. And there are a few little tweaks in there. And lo and behold, and the thing is that if you have a sleep problem that's medical, the first thing the doctors will ask you to do is get a sleep routine, be consistent, because that's really the solution. The problem with pills is they work until they don't.
Sure. And I guess also if you don't have the routine, it can be hard to know where the root of the sleep problem is.
Perfect. Yes, absolutely. Excellent point. And I solved it. I got my little, I have my little kind of thing that I do, and it was so successful that in May 2019, I spent the night in a hospital emergency room having my heart monitored. I had, and we can talk about this later, I'm part of Extinction Rebellion. I'm totally aware of what's happening to the planet. It is freaking me out, as I'm sure it is freaking all of us out. And then my neighbor cut down 3 trees, living, beautiful trees, for no reason, and I was around the noise, and they were bleeding sap. And then my friend who was giving the talk for Extinction Rebellion gave me the talk, but didn't have time to give me the hope part of it. So, right.
No.
So, yeah, I know. Like, I'll practice on you with the dim and gloom, but I won't give you how we can change this. So I thought I was having a heart attack, and I went into the hospital, and I was there in an emergency room on what is Memorial Day weekend in the States, which is people were coming in with firecracker burns, and, and I was in my own room, but I had like tubes and monitors taped all over me. I slept because I knew what I needed. Yeah, I needed XYZ. Asked my husband to go home and get it. And he did. Thank you. I'm still grateful for that. And I actually slept in an emergency room because I knew what I needed for my little part of the world, for my little
what is your XYZ? I'd love to hear more about your particular routine. What's your ritual?
Well, if I'm not in an emergency room,
ideally,
I shut down all electronics an hour before bed. It should be 2 hours, but you know what? Hey, we're all binge watching these days. And when I do watch, I avoid the news completely because there's nothing we can do about it right now. And the best way we can deal with it is being rested and just allow that part of the body to take over. So I cut down electronics. In the winter, I take a hot bath because there's an indication that you raise your body temperature so it can go down and you sleep deeper. Really works. And it also feels good. I mean, I call bedtime the first best habit. I think it's the first habit because once you get it down, all those other habits you want to do, like focus, motivation, losing weight, eating, or I shouldn't even say losing weight, eating mindfully, connecting with people, they all come together when you're rested. So it's the first habit. It's the best habit because it's like hot baths, essential oils, like whatever pleases me. So I'll take a hot bath because there's science, indication that it helps with sleep. I will sit and journal. I recently, and I'm working on a class for this, done a lot of research into happiness psychology, and I believe that you can use bedtime as a container to put all the good things in that make us happy. So gratitude, reflection, what strengths did you do during the day? How did you connect to people? Reflecting on kindness. You can do all that stuff. And then I'm skipping around. So I'm giving some of my tips right off the top. Probably not a good idea. But anyway, one of the great bedtime tips you can do to condition yourself to sleep is to pick a morning routine that you reverse at night. So, right? So I have a couple of them, and we can talk about that later if you want. I make my bed in the morning, and I'm a total slob. It doesn't have to be, I don't care. I will not Marie Kondo a damn thing in my house. So I just turn down the sheets, and it's a signal to the brain that it's bedtime. I read from a real book, a paper book. And then I put a little mask on to block out the ambient light. And actually putting the mask on is part of the ritual. Like I put it on the bedstead. So at night I take it off. In the morning I put it back. It's another little mini ritual within a ritual to reverse. And so in the hospital, what I needed was weighted blankets. I don't know. Do you have like thin blankets in your hospitals in the UK?
Yeah, I'm just thinking I don't even know allowed blankets anymore in hospitals, but yeah, they're not. If you do have them, they're scritchy and thin. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't have a weighted blanket. I've always liked this even as a kid before they discovered weighted blankets. So I said, bring this blanket, bring my mask, and then my old school MP3 player. Because the phone is too tempting. You want the blue light out of the bedroom, and that has a lot of guided meditations and even audiobooks. And I can share with you at some point if you're interested, how I discovered that magicness of listening to stories and
because we were talking about that a tiny bit before we started recording. But yeah, I'd love to hear a bit because that's something that works for me. And I was saying I think it's because this isn't always a good thing. I actually find listening to podcasts makes me really sleepy. So if I actually want to listen, I'm kind of doomed because there's something, if I don't have visuals, it doesn't really go in. So, but I have learned that actually, if I want to sleep, then or something auditory, whether it's I'm also just thinking of times in my life when I've been through like a messy breakup, or there's some kind of mental health going on, making a playlist that's got
Oh, yes. Yeah.
music that holds me in the sort of happy space
Yeah.
helps me go to sleep.
Oh, that's so interesting because, you know, if I listen to music, like I just get stimulated, you know, it's just like, what was that? You know, um, when so just two aspects of the listening, I think it calms busy brain, you know, and there are tons of guided meditations for sleep. And if you do use an app, the Insight Timer, I actually have a couple of meditations up on the Insight Timer under Sleepytime Club, and our friend Claire Hayes has some on the Insight Timer too.
And we can put links to those.
Yeah, and she's great. That's how Sam and I met. We've never met in person. We've met virtually. But so with my child has ADD, not the hyperactive, but except for her brain. So that's where, you know, it kicks in. She had busy brain even as a child. And I would put on stories. You know, we would do our ritual, and I would put and it was back in the days of cassettes. And she said, you know, that I couldn't have gotten to sleep without those stories, except I was always anxious that they would click off and wake me up. So the CD, you know, when we switched to CDs, that was great. But for me, how I discovered it was in the middle of my horrible insomnia, you know, period. And we were going on a extended family camping trip to look at colleges for my kid. So I thought, how are we, and we rented an RV. It was nuts. It was really kind of nutty, but I'm glad we did it. So before we left, I was going, I'm going to keep everyone up. The quarters are so tight. This is awful. I know. I'll get some audiobooks out of the library, and at least I'll learn something. And I'll just keep my little MP3 player next to myself. And so it was back in the days where you had to rip the CD to sync it.
Oh gosh, yeah, of course, yeah.
Right? Which wasn't so long ago, you know what I mean? We're talking about less than 10 years ago. And I got this one, and it was a man with a lovely, he was from Great Britain, so he had a beautiful accent, and it was, it just put me to sleep. I didn't learn anything. I just like, you know, it's just a long story. Oh, well, here's it stopped my anxiety because I could just latch on to this, and my brain would be free to kind of go into another place, a dreamy place.
And that's a really good point, actually, because I was just thinking about, so I had, when I first became a mum, I had some quite bad mental health problems, and partly it was all very much tied up with the fact that my child didn't sleep. And then when he started sleeping, it was like my sleep was broken. I was so used to having to wake up like every 40 minutes, like every hour, maybe.
Yeah.
And then he started sleeping, and I was like, what do I do now? And I was so relieved, and then I was just there like, oh. I thought it would just come back, but I had to relearn, I guess, how to sleep. And I was just thinking about what you were saying about the accent. I tried Headspace, I think, which is an app that gets quite a lot of publicity. And the accent of the person doing the meditations just didn't work for me. But I then tried a different one. And I'm really glad I didn't just go, well, that's it, you know, guided meditations aren't the one. I sort of shopped around a bit until I found someone whose voice was just like, yeah, this works for me. So I think it's worth kind of noting.
Oh no.
Oh, I've got you back, I think.
Yeah. You know what? I'm getting an unstable internet connection. Should I take a moment and plug directly into Wi-Fi, or should we just wing it?
It seems to be okay now. No.
No. What?
It seems okay this end now. Are you?
All right. Okay. So we'll keep going. Apologies to the watchers. This is we all know this reality. Yeah, that's funny about the accent. I think Headspace guy is Australian, right?
Yeah, I can't remember who. Yeah, there was just something, and it just that first one. I was just like, no, And there might be choices that you can have different people, because I think sometimes you see adverts with different celebrities doing stories and stuff, and you're like, oh. So it's looking around, isn't it, and finding the right voice or the right music or the right thing that helps your anxiety or your busy brain.
To just sort of put it on the shelf. It's not helping anybody. It's not, we're not in survival mode. We're now in sleep mode. So
exactly.
That's so funny. Yeah, Clarissa Pinkola Estes, I might be pronouncing her name wrong. Women Who Run with Wolves. Here we are in Wolf. She has bedtime stories for grown-ups, and they just like, oh, they put me to sleep. They're so.
How did I not know this? She is like my hero. I'm writing it down.
Yeah, she retells some classic fairy tales in her way.
Oh.
Yeah, because it's about the kids and it's about us. If we're not there for our kids. I mean, that's the other thing about bedtime, being the container for all things good. It's a time for connection. And if you're not with kids, then connect with yourself, connect with spirit, connect with your loved ones. I was talking with someone who's on the board of the Pajama program, which is here in the States. It gives children pajamas and a book. And there are, kids who don't have that.
Yeah, cool.
And it's just painful. It seems sort of superficial, but it's not. It's really important. And they are moving it used to be like, give them pajamas, give them the book, away from clothes and literacy to bedtime being a time for connection. Because the way I see it, we've read the research on the family meal being like so important, and families that have a family meal, but that's not always a reality. And also, if you're at home homeschooling your kid all day, and then you make dinner, even no matter how healthy you are with giving them responsibility and giving them, having a ritual within a ritual, they make, the food, it's still like, oh my, give me some alone time. And if the way, we didn't have a lot of overscheduling in our family, but a lot of people do. So you can throw your kid a slice of pizza in the back of the car while you drive them off to a band practice, right? You can multitask dinner, but you can't multitask bedtime. It's there. We all have a bedtime routine, whether we like it or not. Does it serve sleep? Does it serve self-care? Does it serve the care of the people around us?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And I remember reading that, I think, in one of your social media posts before. It's like, if you don't think you have a bedtime ritual because you just scroll through your phone and watch Netflix and drink coffee, that's your ritual.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, here's what my ritual looked like before I saw the doctors. I would drink too much, and we can talk about alcohol. I don't want to get on a soapbox, but it's really something to consider. I would, I was a wine mom before there were wine moms. I would mindlessly watch television. Then I would go, oh my gosh, it's 11. I have to get up at 6 and walk the dog before everyone gets up, and I go to work. I know I'll sleep in my dog walking clothes to save time in the morning, right? So I put on, so I'm immediately giving my brain signals that sleep isn't important, waking is more important, walking the dog is more important than anything else. And no wonder I had sleep problems, I mean, who wouldn't want to slip into something special to sleep in or not, it's your choice. I mean, at least going to sleep naked differentiates it from the day, because hopefully you're not walking around naked all day, right?
Probably not most of the time.
Yeah, not most of the time.
Yeah, I guess what you're saying then is about the signals that you're giving yourself that's opening that gateway, as opposed to just like giving yourself something like I'm going to bed now, boom, kind of thing. It's just like, there's no sleep coming. Why isn't it coming? And like, how do you open those gates up?
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to do it. Yeah, I'm going to sleep. Wait, why aren't I sleeping? I'm determined to sleep. The brain just doesn't work like that. I mean, there's a reason that there's centuries of poems and fiction about the magic of sleep and dreams. And we've just, I don't know, we can get heavy into it, but I'd need to do the research again, about the night and the day and the Romans and the Celtic people. And, let's embrace the dark,
Yeah. So I'm really curious as well. I wanted to, because we're getting near the end, but I'm going to ask you
Oh,
a deep
oh, oh,
question. But I just wanted to kind of touch on, you mentioned connecting with spirit and obviously your background in the church. I was kind of curious around how spirituality fits with you in sleep and the idea of ritual and kind of where you're at now.
oh, that's a really good question. No one's ever asked me that before. You are so good. I get involved out of the institutional church. I mean, I'm a believer. I was a believer in a family that were just pragmatists, empiricists. So I think sleep and dreams are deeply spiritual, and they tap us into the great unconscious. It gives us the opportunity to see how we are connected, how we can go in soul flight, to use Caitlin Matthews' term, to other places. I've recently started praying the rosary, based on a place here in the States in Woodstock, and it's wayoftherose.org. And it's a very tactile way to intercess for the world and to open the doorway for other things. And it makes me very sleepy, but I pray and connect and think positive thoughts, because why, look, I'm as active politically as I can be, but I can't do anything at night, I can't, my outrage is not going to help a darn thing, and we have to give that up, or surrender to some greater wisdom that is there.
I love that. And I think it's a really beautiful point as well around these like very chaotic times, these very kind of interesting times when hopefully things are changing. I love that feeling, and I kind of talk about it sometimes too. It's like you can't serve from the puddle. You've got self-care. Self-care is necessary if you want to serve and help and be of use in some way. Like you say, staying up all night, being anxious about it, and then getting up in the morning in the state that you'll be in because you haven't managed to sleep very well, you're going to be of less service. So there's a kind of like self-care and service connection that sometimes gets lost, I guess.
Yeah, and this is such basic self-care. This isn't, I'm going for a mani-pedi. Well, great, if that floats your boat. But, this is taking care of yourself and modeling for your kids what that means. I wanted to add this. I have a basket because, look, I get insomnia now and then. It's natural. It happens. We all have sleep cycle, it breaks. So I have a little basket of what I can do. It could have some needlework. It could have, it's all screen free. It can have a journal. It can have a spiritual book or a book of poems. And I take that basket and I leave the bedroom because I don't want to associate those nights when you're like looking at the clock, like, oh, I've been awake longer than I'm going to be sleeping. You just go to a different room or different part in your room if you only have one room, and you just be there. And usually it takes me 20 minutes and then I'm back and I'm asleep, That's
a really good point, actually. Yeah, of like trying not to toss and turn too much, because then it becomes part of the ritual, I guess, right?
Yes, yeah. When I get that bed, I'm going to be awake. I'm going to be miserable.
Yeah, I'm just laughing as well because so when you're saying insomnia is normal, I think I've just kind of only realized that really recently. And obviously, I mean, we've all had, I'm sure, some very strange sleep disruptions from COVID and all of the stuff that's going on. But I also kind of realized the muses show up for me and disrupt my sleep around when I'm feeling inspired, and I can't control when that happens. And I kind of need to, do exactly what you're saying, like get out of the bed, write the list of ideas of all the things, maybe even draw something, whatever. If it's come in that moment, I need to get it out, then that's okay. And I just kind of have to accept.
Well, that's actually a phenomenon. That's a spiritual phenomenon. It's that there's a time of 4:30 in the morning, roughly, and there's that Rumi poem, "Don't Go Back to Sleep." The breeze at dawn is secrets to tell. Don't go back to sleep. And it's been called. I read an article on it years ago, just a survey. It's called the hour of the wolf in some cultures. And I read a story about a rabbi who would wake up at 4:30 in the morning and walk his village and pray. Every house he walked by, he would pray. So that's the other thing, is just surrendering to these messages of the dark, rather than like it's all sunlight, it's all do, go, go, go. It's like there are those muses that wake you up and all of us up, and they have important things to say.
And I think also if you do have small children, it can be those moments of quiet when you're actually quiet enough to be able to hear your inner knowing, or the muses, or whatever it is that's coming through. That can be sometimes that moment of clarity can come, can't it?
Yes. And you want to be open to that flow of your life and spirit, and what the kids, I mean, it really is a time for great solitude, which is key for all of us,
I loved what you're saying a little bit as well. I just wanted to touch on, I know over here in England, a lot of kids are going back to school right now after a very strange time. So I think there's a lot of sleep disruption going on. And you said something really beautiful earlier about intimacy and aloneness, and something that we're missing out on. I can't quite remember what your words were.
I don't remember.
Okay.
but I think I think to get true intimacy, we need to be comfortable with ourselves without the hyper stimulation, of the world. For instance, I here in the States, I'm really not happy with a lot of our culture. And the immediate response to this pandemic was a lot of parents would put their kids in cars, one car, one or two kids. They would put balloons and they would drive around the neighborhoods honking their horns because their kids miss school. And I'm like, this is not, I mean, I can't imagine these kids years from now going, what kind of memory is that make? Do you know what I mean? As opposed to so many other responses and then that's one of those pushing the energy out, rather than saying, this is a hard time for us. It is a harder time for so many. How can we not get lost in despair, but be very, be quiet, and just listen, and then move to act,
Yeah, and that's actually really interesting. It made me think about one of the aspects of insomnia, I think sometimes, is that uncomfortableness that comes after we've turned off everything, and that it's an art sometimes to learn to be with yourself and be with your feelings, and particularly when things are scary or unpleasant.
Yeah. That's such a good point. Yeah, you have to get used to the discomfort of, of not being constantly stimulated. And that's a challenge for me. I love, I've wasted days, if not weeks of my life, doing mindless stuff on the internet. I regret it.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, there's like I guess it's kind of like, I guess what I'm talking about maybe it's like almost sometimes the gateway to sleep idea might involve kind of learning how to be friends with yourself and actually just be with yourself, particularly, and then also learning how to manage if you are experiencing a lot of anxiety or depressive kind of tendencies. I'm just thinking about my own experience, how to manage those things and ease them to the point that you can get through to the sleepy place.
Yeah, I went off alcohol August 1st, and I'm going to stay off it until September 2nd or 3rd. And it's more of an experiment. There's a great book called The Alcohol Experiment, because I was using this pandemic as an excuse to self-medicate, to numb my feelings. But the problem is, when you numb your feelings about that, you numb your feelings about everything else. And that connection at bedtime, if you have kids, is so important. I mean, there are studies on it and all that kind of stuff, but basically you just tell your child you're present, and they're going to feel safe and loved, and you're going to remember it, and they're going to remember it much more than driving around the neighborhood honking horns. That's a memory. But if we start the evening out, and I'm not saying I'm never going to go back to drinking. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's an experiment. But it's if you have that drink, there's a lot of parenting things like, I can't parent without booze, right?
Yeah.
Which is like, you are numbing your own. You're not only numbing the anxiety, you're numbing your own experiences of the people around you, so this is just a plea for the parents. If you want that glass of wine or whatever, have it after you've had that bedtime, because you want to be there. That's the memory you want to have, and it's so much better.
Yeah, I love that, and that sounds like a great point as well, to do a bit of signposting to what you've got and how you can help people with their bedtime rituals.
Oh, well, thanks. So, Sleepytime Club, everything. I'm not shipping anything hard copy right now, because I don't know everyone's protocols, and it freaks me out. So you get complete, the upside is you get instant gratification. So I think the one thing I have that's really of service right now are these digital bedtime love cards, and that's at bedtimelove.com. And they're printable things, and if you have an older child, you can make a whole screen-free activity about it. That's low supervision. We like that.
We do like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that you can cut out the cards. You can print out as many as you need for each sibling, and each card has a little brief way to connect at bedtime, through a poem, through gentle touch, through a positive thought, through American Sign Language. So you can, let's say if one of those days you homeschooled, it's just like, just go in your room and pick a card.
Yeah.
But actually making the cards can be a whole low supervision activity too. So I have those. I have bedtime kits. I have 4, which are storybooks that also have poems, songs, a mindfulness practice, and a story. So it gives children a journey to sleep. And you can be done in less than 20 minutes, and which helps you reclaim your evening. And then everything's recorded, and it ends with classical guitar, which is just beautiful. So you can leave the recording behind, like stream it, whatever your preferred thing, and then you can just say, bye, I'm going. Going now. So it solves the busy brain, but you're still present in the room. And then I have the bedtime journal, which has your gorgeous cover on it. And that is, that is just a way to release the day. It gives, and a lot of people say it has to be for writers. You want the child to dictate to you, because you're connecting. You want them to sit there and say, what about today? What are you grateful for? And then it's 3 months. Every week has a new poem, and every week has positive bedtime affirmations, and those are all recorded. Again, you can make it a playlist and leave the room.
Yay!
Yeah.
And I love.
Yeah, you don't.
Sorry.
No, you go.
I was just thinking as well. I love what you're saying, is because at the offset of this talk, it could sound like we're saying you need a ritual for sleep, and it's going to be, like your whole evening. But you're just
right.
20 minutes, just quality, I guess, over quantity. Be really present those 20 minutes, and then everyone's happy.
Yeah, it's a good thing to show your kids boundaries. That's a really good thing. I've met some parents who just say, I sleep in my child's room, and they're, and here's a great story. A friend of mine said she was in college and her roommate had parents who never left her alone. And in college, she needed my friend to stay in the room so she could fall asleep. She'd be
Wow.
like, don't go out tonight. I can't go to sleep unless someone's in my room. So, that little bit of solitude, that little bit of contentment with ourselves, of surrender is a really important thing to practice. So yeah, it doesn't take long. These bedtime cards, love cards, you could be done in 8 minutes. And the studies show it's quality, not quantity of time that kids remember, you know?
Oh, that's so beautiful. I feel like we could talk forever, but
I do too.
we'll try and wrap it up there. So I will, when I post the video, I'll put lots of links and things to all of your wonderful stuff. And it's also really worth just following Brooke on social media, because she's just pouring out all these magical tips and ideas all the time kind of targeted for kids, but what we're learning from this chat is it works for everyone.
Yeah, treat your inner child.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I guess particularly if is this a kind of chance to heal if you had some bedtime trauma, developmental bedtime trauma when you were a kid? You can.
Such a good point. How many parents use bedtime as a punishment?
Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
and don't do that to yourself as a grown-up either. It's like, how can you redefine your relationship with sleep?
Oh, that's oh my gosh, we can talk
That's
forever.
the next
We should brainstorm on this.
Awesome, Brooke. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Enjoy your day.
You too. Thank you.